What's up guys, Doe here, and today's going to be a trial video. It's going to be on the new trials, even though I know you guys don't particularly like trials, but this week is a bit different from the previous weeks. There is no shenanigans for the most part, and it's going to be a lot more smoother of a time, and it's going to be more enjoyable. It's going to be a hard trial because Scrave is actually a hard fight, which if you guys don't know, this week's trial is going to be Scrave, but the modifiers, which the previous weeks have been sort of defining the fights, aren't that bad in this case. And I'll sort of explain why when I go over the modifiers. But this week is going to have Scrave, and Scrave is a hard fight when it actually has health. And in this case, Scrave has health, and you can't exactly chain stagger it like you can in normal fights. So it's going to be a bit harder than normal, but it's going to feel a lot more fair. And you'll feel like you're actually fighting the behemoth instead of just fighting the modifiers, which is how it's felt the past few weeks. So this trial so far, like after playing it, it's enjoyable. It's a challenge, but it's enjoyable. And that's all I really want. I want to be challenged, but I want to have fun pursuing said challenge. But to go into the modifiers this week, you're going to have umbral instability. Behemoths have been touched by unstable umbral energy and will periodically create black holes that must be destroyed. Now, this will happen, it's on a set timer, I believe, that's linked to the airship, like whenever you land on the platform. Like, that's whenever the timer starts, I believe. But I really wish that this was actually linked to an attack from the behemoth. Sort of like how the ice totems are, but it's not that big a deal, and it's not that hard to destroy. It is something you have to like sort of change your focus from the behemoth to the orb, which isn't a big deal. And in with certain weapons, it's not that hard to destroy either. Now the next modifier that's also on the normal mode, like unstable umbral instability, is on the normal mode, just like tough hide. So tough hide is where behemoth parts take less damage, but wounded parts take much more damage. The funny part though is that the head of Scraved is not affected by tough hide at all. And I'm pretty sure it's because it's a severable, so it doesn't get affected for some reason. And what that means is you don't have to bring acidic or barbed, which is what you would be bringing if everything was affected by tough hide. You'd be bringing acidic and barbed, so you can actually wound it to get more damage. But in this case, you don't have to. Like, I got a sub 3 on Scrave so far with chain blades, which I probably won't try it again solo, just because all I care about is getting a fast time. I don't want to be the fastest, but I want to get a fast time where like, wow, I did pretty good, like for myself. And I did, so I'm Gucci. But I got a sub 3 with chain blades, and I didn't have acidic, barbed, a wound potion, none of that stuff. I didn't care. It's sort of like tough hide isn't a modifier in this trial, which is kind of weird, but it is what it is. And now the dauntless modifiers are momentum, where unstable attacks increase behemoth damage if they are not interrupted. Interrupting unstable attacks reduces Interrupting unstable attacks reduces increased damage. That's what it says. So if you don't interrupt it, it'll do more damage. Once you do interrupt it, it'll take away the stacks. And then Icy Grave, where if you're frozen, it'll spawn like this icicle beneath you that'll freaking murk you if you don't get out of the ice quick enough, which the ice itself is actually really dangerous, and like Icy Grave isn't really a factor, because when you're frozen, if Scrave does a follow-up attack, you're going to die. Because the ice does a ton of health, a ton of damage to your health, and then if Scrave hits you with anything else, you're just dead. So I feel like these are nice modifiers. Not in the sense that like, oh, they're really like insane, and that's a good thing. I'd prefer the modifiers to be present but not be overwhelming, which is how they've been the past few weeks. It seems like the modifiers have just been like the fight. So I actually like the idea of we're just fighting Scrave. We're not really going super ham on the modifiers, and they're there and they're present, and you can account for them if you want to, but you don't necessarily have to. Now I will say that tough hide I do think should affect Scrave's face. Just because otherwise, what's the point in having the modifier, you know? Like, it's nice that it's going to make it to where, like, Warp Pike can pop off a little bit. That's kind of interesting. I kind of like that. But at the same time, other weapons can just pop off without having to worry about it. So that's like that's my biggest thing, I guess. But for the fight itself, Scrave it's a good time. I'll go ahead and talk about that some more here. Scrave's got a pretty interesting attack pattern and a really interesting attack variation. I'm not going to go into all the attacks, just the ones that I think you should really understand how they work, and the ones that I think are kind of scuffed. But for the attacks that you should really understand how they work, it's going to be the boop attack, the jump and wing twirl with the ice attack, and then the ground ice summoning thing, as well as the one where it summons a totem. I don't know the names of the attacks. I'm just going off of like what they look like, so we're going to play some charades here, and I apologize for doing that. I'll show you attacks on the screen, and that'll give you guys a idea of what they look like. Now, Scrave's unstable attack, which is also referred to as an attack you can boop, actually has two phases. You're going to have the first phase where it's on the ground and it puts out its wings and it's got marks on its face, indicating you can actually boop that. That will be a damage threshold. To do enough damage, you'll actually stun it before it goes in the air. If you don't do enough damage, or if you just don't hit it at all, it'll go into the air, it'll fly in the air, and it'll be there for a little bit, and then it will start flying towards you. During this, you want to get a good distance away from Scrave, because if you're too close, you can't really interrupt it at all. If you're far enough away, you'll actually have a really good chance. It's actually not a hard boop to land. It's got some really generous iframes, or really generous, I guess, frames in general for the attack, making it it's kind of nice. It's not like how some fights are, oh, I booped it and it still hit me, because those don't really feel the greatest. So this actually has a really generous frame for that. Now the next attack is not so generous, and this is going to be the jump wing spin. So Scrave will be on the ground, and it'll basically jump in the air doing a spin, and when it's landing, it'll spin as well, spinning its wings. And this isn't the hard part of this attack. The hard part is that it sends out this ice with the wing spin, and the ice is kind of scuffed. And I've told the devs that this is what's happening. They're just like, nah, it's fine. People love dodging and getting hit after they dodge. It's a fantastic feeling. Who wouldn't enjoy that? And I'm like, hey, yo, you guys, it's your game. You must understand something I don't. I don't know. I don't like the fact that you'll dodge the attack and still get hit. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does happen, it feels like garbage. So this attack is kind of scuffed. I don't like it. But if you dodge towards the very end of the attack, you'll have a much greater chance of not getting hit by any of this stuff. Or you can dodge early and try and dodge twice. You can kind of like roll the deck on that one, and you hopefully pick some good cards. The next attack I want y'all to be aware of is going to be a ground ice summoning thing. So Scrave will turn into an ice bender, put its hands on the ground, and summon this ice to the surface. For this attack, you want to dodge like towards the point where the ice is actually on the surface, or like really close to that point. If you dodge too early, it'll do the attack and you'll get frozen anyway. It's kind of like a weird way of working, but it is pretty fair in the sense that it works in a similar fashion all the time. You just gotta learn the timings. It's going to look like you should be dodging really early, but you want to wait to dodge. Just be aware of that. It's hard to explain, but that's just how it works. And for the last attack, this is not going to be super hard to dodge, but it is, again, a weird attack just like the ice summoning thing. Now for this attack, it'll summon an ice totem. That's not that crazy, but the attack itself can hit you for a decent amount of damage if you get hit by it. So to dodge it, just understand that whenever it's going to put the ice totem down, it'll put its right arm towards the ground, and then before it goes into the ground, it'll make its wing come out like a freaking switchblade on its arm. When that happens, you want to get really close to dodging, or just dodge at that moment, and then that's how you dodge it. Because some attacks, the slow attacks are the hard ones to dodge in some cases. Like if it's really slow, it's hard to dodge. If it's really fast, it's hard to dodge. That's kind of how Dauntless is right now. It's kind of funny, but the slower the attack, it can be rough. So those are the attacks I want you to look out for, but now it's time to look at the gear you might want to bring to this fight. And just first things first, bring Hellion weapons and don't ask questions. Just bring Hellion weapons, and that's all you gotta know in this fight. But for the perks you want to bring, maybe, it's probably going to be something like Predator, Berserker, Overpower, Rage Hunter, Conduit, Aetheric Attunement, those kind of cells. You can also bring Acidic and Savagery, but just know that it's probably not going to be as viable as just rocking a standard meta build for Hellion weapons that don't have those cells. Just because the head, like I said earlier, isn't affected by Tough Hide, making it to where there's really no point in bringing that. You just hit the head with the weapon without having to do that. Because the problem with Acidic and creating wounds is you have to make a wound to then get that extra damage in. Where with other builds, you can just have the extra damage from the start. So those are my suggestions for the perks for the builds in this fight. And now I go into my opinion on the weapon tier list for this fight. It's going to go Chainblades, Hammer, Axe, Sword, and then Repeaters and Pike, I think. That's my opinion. That's just what I think is going to happen. And that's just sort of how I think it's going to go down. And that's also the end of this video, guys. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like and let me know down below what you think will be the fastest runtime on this boss and what weapon it'll be with if you want. And be sure to check me out on Twitch. I'm a Twitch partner and a Dauntless partner, and I stream Dauntless a lot. I also have my own partner, Flare. If you want that, subscribe to me on Twitch. And lastly, be sure to use my Epic Games support code in the store if you want to support me when making purchases. It helps me out immensely, and thank y'all for doing that. Seriously, I say it every video, but I really appreciate the folks that do that. And thanks for just watching the videos, y'all. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.